Welcome back to another episode of the Community Spotlight with our RRT segmentation here. Today we have our guest, good friend of mine and kind of a local hero in a way, Steve Shriver, serial entrepreneur.
Hello.
Awesome. Thank you for coming, by the way. And we also have Casey Hempstead with this company, Revolution Realty Team, sitting in.
How's it going? It's been a long time since I've been on one of these live streams. And I'll say, you said local hero. Steve, I've heard your name a million times. You're sort of a local legend, but this is the first time that we're meeting. So,
Yeah, it's about time, man.
It's about
You're
time.
like the only person in Cedar Rapids that I don't know.
Yeah.
No. Thanks, man. And that's huge. That's too far. Local hero. Yeah.
Well, I think, it really is just kind of for me, I look at I'm not the most traditional dude myself, in terms of what you would expect out of a business person. But I think we're living in a time now that's more about what you know and kind of who you know, rather than just hey, I got to put in this suit and fall into this container, which qualifies me to go to the next level. So that's, to me, maybe been kind of awesome to see a guy that kind of gave me permission in some ways to do the same,
Yeah,
So.
it's been such a great ride. It's been just being able to carve out my own path and to build. Everything from the start of Nubo to finding gaps in. Most of what I'm doing is either capitalistic or community building, but it's or both. And it's SoCo, we didn't have an outdoor store. Let's do that. Bohemia, we didn't have a coffee scene. Let's do that.
Definitely.
And we now have this great competitive coffee scene in town. Ecolips identifying
And good food too there.
Well, yeah.
If I can file a complaint, it's too good because I eat there too often. I'm spending too much money there.
I'm making too much money from you guys. So, no, I'm kidding.
Hey, that's the idea, right?
Right.
Can I just one real quick? Can I have you slide this way just a little bit, sort of a little more,
Okay.
and you can bring that with you too. There you go, perfect.
Yep.
Cool, that's good.
The
That's great.
production expert.
Yes. I like
Just
it.
change the stuff on the fly. It's okay. It's what live streams are for.
Attention to
That's
detail.
right. So that's cool. With that being said, you've done Ecolips, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have done Bohemia, just for the names, and then SoCo and Bug Soother.
Yeah, we purchased Bug Soother
Also-
3 years ago. Yep.
How do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And then we got the Olympic Southside Theater.
And the Olympic. Yeah,
And,
exactly.
In between all those, I have done other things, and we own some property, and I'm also launching a new patented electrical outlet that's coming out in
Jesus.
January. And so it's too much, dude. To be honest with you, I got myself in a situation here where I have too much. I took it. I was like, I want to have 10 businesses, and and do this, and I'm like, five's good, and now I'm like, I really just want 3, But I think it's also just the timeline of of life and interest. But yeah, man. I really what it is for one. I read the book E-Myth by Michael Gerber when Andrea and I first started Raining Rose way back in the late 1900s, and it was all work yourself out of a job and that kind of. And I'm just like, yeah. I'm gonna fill all the boxes when I start a company, the org chart, and then I'm gonna work myself out of it, and eventually it won't need me anymore. And I was able to fucking do it. It was just it works, man.
Oh man, that's incredible. It's
So I took 3 years off in my adult life. 4 or 5 years ago, I took 3 years off.
Yeah.
From work.
Let's back up for a
in
sec.
some ways,
So that sort of spirit, where does that come from? What did you do before all of that? Before you started, all these adventures?
It was I was not in, so I wasn't academic. Opposite.
Sure.
I did not like school. I basically quit school and moved out of my house at age 16, and I'm like, I'm going to do my own thing. I didn't know what that thing was. Well, at the time it was working at McDonald's, but I got my own apartment, $280 a month in the ghetto in Davenport. And then, but so hunger and also the belief that I could do whatever I want to do. That's one thing, my mom blessed me with was she just was always like, you can do whatever you want to do. She was not the parent that was like, oh, that's too risky or that's too, she was just like, you can do whatever you want to do. Well, that's kind of fucked up too, because all of a sudden, if you believe you can do anything, I mean, it's going to backfire at some point. I mean, you're going to, it's going to push you to failure, but you become right.
Yeah. There's a certain level of delusion that has to exist to have that mentality, right? Like, no, everything's going to be fine. It's going to work out. I can do whatever I want, which it's not a normal thought process for people. But I think that's like the superpower, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So when, just even in Cedar Rapids, I'm like, okay, I didn't plan on living here, but if I'm going to live here, I'm going to be a part of making this place cooler. Okay. What's that going to take? Like, that's going to require, aligning myself with the right people and creating stuff that doesn't exist here, and that's the whole mission. So it's just a internal drive to challenge myself and also just I'm experience junkie. So like, I don't know anything about the electrical industry, but I'm going to launch a product into it and find out about it, Yeah. So it's inside. I just got a tattoo for my daughter. I don't where's this camera go?
Like here up.
Okay, yeah. So perfect.
Like perfect.
So self-made is
Yeah.
my latest tattoo, and I'm like, and it was just something that I live with a lot. Where I'm like, this is important to me to remind myself, but also that's an inspiration because we're all self-made in our own ways, but a lot of people have their hand held the whole time or sometime. And I guess I'm living proof that you can do this shit without any help, without any investment capital, without any.
Yeah. And I think that's, like our society, it's like, oh, you got to have this and that before you can get into the next phase. But it's like, no, you don't. You actually just need to be convicted enough and really fucking like stay true and be like, hey, this is what I want to do. And I'm going to go drive through it. And I'm not going to let, everybody else's opinions really become my own, I think is the main thing, right?
Yep.
So on that note, like, so what is it that you feel like, let's just picture anybody's out here listening to this or gets a hold of this now or in 10 years or whatever. What is it that, you would recommend for folks that are looking to find that motivation? And how do you stay on? I know you go through a lot of things like extreme sports, mountain climbing, backpacking. I imagine that caters to your like understanding of like, hey, this isn't that big of a deal, like you kind of said. But do you have any like rituals or anything that help you to like stay focused in a way that works, for you? Yeah. And it's not like one size fits all, obviously. It's like
sort of like that grounding sequence that brings you back to the
Well, so that's a good one. I personally, it's like I am just naturally driven, so it is hard to understand somebody that's not. That being said, I also think balance is bullshit, and like I'm either going full bore,
I'm trying to figure that out,
or I'm crashing and burning. But I gave up on the idea that I'm going to keep everything simpatico and like and that I gave up on that. So I have I've ended up in the hospital because I've been working so hard and under so much stress. Yeah, and so that's the I guess the risk of it is that drive can create other forms of stress.
Right. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, stress isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's actually, that's where we evolve, right? It's like, if there's no stressors, there's no evolution. Right. So, you're, it's like a music note, right? Like as a guitar guy or, any instrument, you're in between notes for a while and then you click into that next note and then you're like, boom, I found it. And then, but before that, you're like, is it there? Where is it? Is it ever going to be there?
Right, right. And so actually, like, I like having debt. I like having debt because I like to chase. I like to go after. Sure. I like to stay hungry. So like that debt is a driver. And I'm like, when we bought Bug Soother, it was the largest purchase I've ever made. It millions of dollars, and I'm like, all right, man, this is big, but I've earned it, and I'm gonna now I got to deliver on that. And so, so I think just putting myself in a position where I have to keep pushing it's a lot of pressure, but it's also like it's the story of building.
Yeah. And to some extent, Rob, it's a little bit of what we were talking about the other day. Like war is simple. right? When the goal is
Yeah,
that
definitely.
well defined, you know how to operate every day. There is no ambiguity. There's no gray area. You know, oh, this debt's got to be paid. That
Yeah.
makes everything very simple for me. I just
Yeah.
have to execute, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So put yourself in a really shitty position and then, you know, strategically.
Yeah,
And just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, I got to deliver. And but you also like I mitigate, you know, by proving yourself with smaller. So I think people should start small, think big.
Yeah, yeah. And you got to your perspective through, you know, winning
Yeah.
an incredible, like, countless amount of, like, mental battles internally to get here to have this perspective. Be like,
yeah.
hey, I know that this works. But it's like, you know, for the people that aren't, like, already, like, along the path, like,
Yeah.
you know, just starting that journey, it's like, you know,
Yeah.
can I do it? You know, because I think, like, you know, you get to a place, you know, as an entrepreneur in general, we were having a conversation, Casey and I, about how it's like you become desensitized and you forget what, you know, the 9-to-5 person actually sees life like. And you're so far away from that understanding because you're always like, hey, I got to just create. And the creative process is the beautiful part about entrepreneurship, in my opinion, because it allows you to, like, you know, keep growing and creating. But man, I guess, like, when I try to think back before I ever did anything with entrepreneurship, I saw the world in a completely different way. And, you know, but then you have to go fight those battles and then one at a time. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, can you even imagine, like, before you know, were an entrepreneur, what was your mentality like, you know, just
Right.
thinking and feeling that mentality, you know, mainly.
Yeah, and I mean, like here's the other thing is, like, I've always been attracted to money, and I hate to, you know, like I feel like I'm a, you know, sustainable oriented
Money is
entrepreneur.
energy, though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And so, like, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna, like, I have goals, and I'm gonna. So when I was working at McDonald's, I worked my way up into the assistant manager position at age 17 because that was like whatever I was doing before when I had a job. It was like, just get better, learn more, get better, learn more, ultimately to start applying those skills to whatever opportunities I had on my own.
Yeah. Just execution.
Yep.
It's like continuing on.
Yeah. And that was, I mean, and that was school for me. So I'm assuming in school you learned some of those same skills, or I hope so.
Probably not. What is your main learning modality though? Is it reading? Is it just like learning as you go? Like how do you learn?
So it's like learning by getting myself into, you know, by creating a situation that I don't know anything about, and I need.
So
I need to
desperation.
Yeah. I need to figure it out. Books. I've never read a fiction book, not once. And so, like, it's always just like stupid. Like, if I'm on the side of a mountain, I'm reading a business book. You know, stupid, dude.
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it's like, this is man. This is what drives me. So
Yeah.
I want to learn more.
I
you
like
know?
it. No, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that's what TV's for.
Right, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
fiction.
Exactly. That's true.
yeah.
That's a good point.
Definitely, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think those are all, like, really good things. You know, you said you don't have, like, you know, you don't believe in balance in a way, right? It's like, so,
Yeah.
and you have a family, right?
Right, but I do. Okay, I forgot that part of the question. I'll give myself a pep talk every morning.
Okay.
Like, I'm not convinced that I'm capable of doing my work
Yeah.
every day. And so I spend a good chunk of the morning, like, I mean, sometimes looking in the mirror going, like, you can fucking do this, dude. And sometimes it's internally just going, like, you're going to have a great day today. You're going to have a great day today.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm going to get my ass kicked, like, a lot throughout the day, but I got to keep my chin up. And it doesn't always work out that way. If Andrea was here, my wife, she'd say, like, yeah, he comes home, sometimes lays on the couch and stares at the ceiling and can't talk.
Which I think is also important. It's
Right.
like, you know, when you really start breaking down, like, a lot of, like, the neuroscience and all that kind of stuff, it's like, you know, the thoughts that we repeatedly think are actually contributing or not contributing or actively discontributing to, you know, whatever it is you're trying to
Like,
do.
I can't do it. I'm not good at this. And then all of a sudden you're like, yeah, if you believe you can't, you are right.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
if you believe you can, you know, you're right. But
Right.
but you have to know that, like, for every positive thought, like, you know, there's going to be that. It's like throwing a rock in the water. It's like there's a moment before the rock, like, submerges, and it's like it creates this space around it, and then all of a sudden it's like boom, and then you see that thing happen. But it's like, positive, and then there's just there's always that rubber band effect in a sense.
Right.
And so that like, the more successful or more positive that you might be, you're going to have that like equivalent in negative thinking patterns or in resistance, maybe I should say, trying to like establish a threshold, which I think is really just trying to make you prove to yourself in a sense, like, hey, you've got to answer that. You got to be like, hey, either, ignore it and move through it, or you've got to say, no, that's not true. No.
Yeah.
And here's why, to yourself. Like, I know I personally, a lot of times will be just like, wait a minute, like, none of those things I just thought were actually true. Like, where the hell did those come from? And you're just like, what?
Yeah. I mean, worries are lies, dude. If
Yeah.
you're worrying about something, it's a lie that you are subscribing to. It's like that thing
It's a
doesn't
subscription
exist.
service.
Yeah. But it feeds itself. Like,
Yeah.
it feeds itself like a fire. And so like, you're just continually worrying and you're stoking the flames,
It gets bigger.
Yeah. Old dude in Nepal was just like, you got to so he kind of gave me that analogy, and he was like, you got to if you're stoking those fears and worry, like you need to you got to let it calm down and let that smoke just dissipate and let that go, and let the worries just become air.
And so Nepal, like you were doing was that for a mountain climbing trip?
Yeah. So I've been there 4 times. And it's been everything from, I led a trek up to the base camp of Mount Everest the first time I was there. Then I was doing some sourcing of wintergreen for business, and now I have some like basically family over there, and
That's
they've
incredible.
come here and we've gone there, and it's been, so
Awesome.
now I go there for friendship, but also we get up. I mean, it's funny because like trekking in Nepal is mountaineering anywhere else. They're just like, it's just a trek because they wear sandals and smoke cigarettes on their way up the mountain. But it's like, no, dude, this is mountaineering. Like, you could die. But
All day.
it's so cool how just the different culture over there. Yeah, how I mean, that's the beauty of travel. It's just like being able to see how things are perceived in different cultures, and like being a part of a culture that doesn't have toilet paper. Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, challenging your own reality of paradigm. You're like, wait a minute, like I've got all these like things that I depend on that are like pretty much autonomous in my own life, but then you go somewhere else and you're like, wait a minute, like life exists in a lot of different ways, and damn, like it's not only this way. I think it's like really important for people to do that, and I don't think enough people do.
You put yourself in a vulnerable position when you travel, like especially to a third world country, and but you can have such amazing growth by doing that.
Oh, absolutely, because I think it also like it teaches you to rely on yourself, and then to think like, hey, I have to be present and I got to be resourceful, and there's not really as much ego in that as there can be as you're just running around your normal routine, because you can get stuck in your own patterns of rhythm and doing good or bad
safety
things.
net, right? Yeah, or whatever that rhythm is, whatever the habits you have here, but you go somewhere else. Even, I mean, and that's where like honestly, it's like thinking about somebody that wants to become more entrepreneurial, it's like, for one, just try something small, and invest $20 or $2,000 in it, whatever you can do, and just figure out how that all works. But also because entrepreneurship is problem solving, and travel is problem solving. Like you're going to get in a situation like whether your flight is delayed or whether the car breaks down in the middle of Madagascar, and it's just like you have to figure this out.
That's right.
And that's problem solving is what we do every day in business.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you find out two big things. One is it was never as scary as you thought, mostly. And
true.
2 is you're capable of way more than you think that you are.
Boom.
Definitely.
Dropping knowledge.
Definitely.
It's nice to meet you,
That's
man.
that's
I'm
point
glad
number
you're here.
that's point number 2 that I took from you today. All right.
It's accurate though. I mean, I think you just have to realize, like, look, man, I'm my own worst enemy every time, and I can convince the smarter you are, the worse it is. Because that's your adversary as well. It's the reflection.
And how, and how you approach the situation. Like if you're put in this is another, it's like you're put in a situation where you're challenged. Are you gonna freak out and you're gonna start yelling and like throwing things, whatever, or same dude in Nepal. He said to me, I was like, how have you gone? You've gone through a drought. You've gone through famine. You've had an earthquake.
Yeah. No
And
shit.
the Maoist takeover every 3 years that happens and all this stuff. And then he was like, I take the hardest times comfortably. I'm like, what is that? Like, that is cool, man. So I got that tattooed on me as well. That's right.
Yeah, man. It's like,
because
hell yeah.
like, what does that mean? And I mean, he is just like, take the hardest times comfortably. Just do it the best you can.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably thought about that for 3 weeks straight, just like, I don't know what did that mean?
Yeah. It's amazing, but we typically don't. We make it more uncomfortable for ourselves. When we get into a hard time, we make it more uncomfortable, and then we make it worse on everybody around us, which makes everything worse. That vortex, just goes.
It just keeps exponentiating out, and you're like, oh shit, I got off track again. Damn it, I'm not above the rules yet. Wait, that's maybe not ever a thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it doesn't matter what level you're on. You still have those same battles because it's like, it's the laws of the universe, and you're like, okay, like, even if I get all the way here, it's like, I never really go anywhere. It's like, I'm actually just here facing these same struggles, but maybe the complexities become a lot more complex. So it's like, just leveling your game up, all the way around the board,
Love it.
Okay, cool, man. So going back to kind of some of that family stuff, it's like, you have, is it 2 or 3? Three girls,
Three
right?
daughters, yep.
And so you're like totally surrounded by women in your life.
Oh yeah, man. My dog's a girl, and my cat is a boy, but cats seem like girls anyway. If they're
Don't they?
I mean, yeah. And check it out.
I got one too,
Got a granddaughter on the way.
Congrats, man.
Yeah. So my youngest is
Another threshold.
Yeah, dude. So
Cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers. So it's yeah.
That's awesome.
I love having all the women in my life, like having daughters, and it's amazing. So
you're the minority as the man.
Right.
Like, I get all the attention.
But I see like obviously the differences in the female mindset and like how fucking strong they are is. It's a good eye opener for me, because I mean, guys, unfortunately, I mean, there's societal norms and expectations, and I know this is a little bit of a tough place to talk about, but it's like, we've been taught to believe that guys are better at things and stronger at things, and it's like, for me to be proven differently through my own experience of having daughters, I'm like, okay,
which is the main experience you should actually rely on, right?
Yes, exactly.
If you actually care about yourself and trust your own experience, which I don't know how you wouldn't, but it seems like it's not as popular these days as maybe it used to be.
That's true.
That's cool, man.
But I did. Let's see here. With the kids grew up, and this is like a chapter in my book that will be published someday. It's written. I'd have a thing. I put business first, family second. Like, I did that my entire adult life. And I communicated it to them. I'm like, I'm putting the business first, and I'm not going to be there for whatever you have going on at school. I'll be there if I can, but it's not my priority. My priority is to make my businesses successful so that we have a good foundation to build our family on.
I think it's fair, yeah.
It's sort of the path of the alchemist, right? I mean, it's the man's search for meaning and putting the goal above sort of everything, but as a ultimate sort of stabilizer to everything that comes around.
So by doing that, I'm actually putting the family first.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't appear that way. But I can tell you this: they would not have had as good of a life if I didn't work until 8 or 9 or 10 p.m. in those days. So. But I think the important part about that
how's your relationship with them now, though, right?
Dude.
So that's good. So it means it worked and that it was worth that, trade-off. And I think that's the thing that it's like, we say, well, I don't know about that.
Right.
And it's like, everybody's got a different jam that works for them anyways. Yeah. But dude, it's like,
I think it made them better.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Independence, man. Like that's what my mom gave to me, was independence, and so they had, Andrea was there for them more than I was, and she did a great job as well. But it's like, it's not, the total hand-holding of parenthood. It's
different.
One hand rather than two hands. Yeah. So,
no, I definitely feel that.
Yeah.
I like it. Well, I've got,
But now this is why also, sorry, I keep interrupting you.
Keep rolling.
No,
man.
but like, that's why now I'm kind of trying to also make up for it. So like all my daughters and their boyfriends are coming over for dinner at 5:30.
Nice.
And that's why I said I got a hard stop at 5:30. So I'm trying to make up for a little bit.
That's good. Yeah. Hey, and at the end of the day, it's like, I think you have to be true to yourself. Otherwise, like, whatever it is that you're trying to do is going to be a, half-ass battle. And it's like if you want to hit the ball on the sweet spot, know, and you have to do that for yourself to then get traction in anything that you do. I think
that's true.
I know for me, like, I had some pretty good success with this company for a while, and then we went to Century 21 and COVID, yada, yada, yada. But in the meantime, I've got a daughter now that is just over 2. And so it was really crazy. I, really took time off there to, be a part of that and understand that as a man. Because, it's like, it's not like I'm having this daughter when I'm 20. It's like I'm a 41-year-old guy. So it's like at that point.
With the body of a 20-year-old.
I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
But either way, like, it's been incredible though, because it's like it's like life is a video game to me in many ways. And it's like I beat a lot of different games and I'm like, okay, this is a game I haven't played yet. And so I want to make sure that, I think she's the only one that we're going to have. So I really wanted to get tuned in there and to really feel that as like kind of a mature guy, or trying to be mature, or whatever the hell that is. And that's been great. And so now I've been kind of back off to the races. It's been great. Casey's come in and been, crushing stuff, and we've been like building things. But man,
that's cool.
The baby girl thing, like, yeah, man, it's just that it's a different energy. It softens you up as a guy on some level. You got to be careful, like, probably with that, because you're like,
Oh yeah.
It's like you got to find a way to
and I'm
get
like
hard as a man still,
Yeah. Yeah, and it was a rough run. I mean, like their teenage years suck. They suck, and like the kids, no matter what you do, like you are their enemy, and so that was the roughest run. I'm like, there was a point where I'm just like, y'all can fuck off. Like you can just go away to college or whatever you need to do, but like don't yell at me when I'm trying to help you.
Yeah.
And,
that's got to be tough.
Yeah. So but then now that they're all adults and they're coming back around, it's like we have the best conversations, and I've heard that from a lot of people, like that you're going to lose your kids for a few years and they're going to come back, and it's like, holy crap, they have. It's amazing.
And I think, and I'm not a parent, but it makes some sense that there's some outside perspective being brought in, right? When they're being raised in the home, like there's that sort of central perspective in the life that they know, but then they go out in the real world and get beat up a little bit, and they're like, oh man, damn, life is not what I thought life was. Yep. Maybe mom and dad were right a little bit. I mean, that happened to me, right? It happened to all of us when we grew up. We're like, oh, I know better. I'm way smarter. I'm not going to listen. Then you go out and get your face beat up a little bit. You're like, damn, maybe they knew what they were talking about. Let's go back and talk.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
That is good.
Which is what we need that. So it's a really good point. Like as tough as that was, it was like we needed them to become themselves.
Yeah.
And not just themselves from internally, but externally. Yeah. Yep. Beautiful. Well said, man.
That's incredible.
And just one last point on that, like social media, I think, is doing infinitely more damage to that whole cycle. Right? Because now we're so isolated in social media and in the echo chamber that it puts us in. And like, maybe, I don't know if people know this, but your Facebook feed looks entirely different than my Facebook feed, looks entirely different than your Facebook feed. And it's all sort of centered around reinforcing the things that keep us on the platform, which are oftentimes our own thoughts and ideas. So it's just, the echo chamber feeding in. And I think that divisiveness is making it even harder to feel like you want to go out and get your face beat up, because you're like, well, no, I'm right, because clearly everything I see online is right.
Yeah, man.
Definitely agree. I think that's an incredible point, actually.
Yeah. And then, I mean, in the kids with Instagram, and like seeing all this, these beautiful lives and beautiful faces and bodies and beautiful travel, and everybody's like, I can just be an influencer, and like, I think as much as that's awesome to strive for something that you're not, that's not just right in front of you. It's also like, that's the current version of like being an NFL or NBA athlete or something like that. Like becoming an influencer that gets paid millions of dollars to go travel.
Right.
I mean, it's 1 in a million or 1 in 50 million. Like,
it's kind of like the old rock stars. It's like, you know, once you make it, then everybody's like, oh, come to my place for free. And then
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. But it's like before you make it, you have to pay.
yeah.
And then it's like, then all of a sudden you get rich and you don't have to pay anymore.
Right,
It's like,
right,
okay.
right. Yeah.
And
that's a
the
good point.
the influencer life, and we talked about this a little bit too, is built from doing, not just showing.
Right.
But a lot of influencers just show to show, but they're not doing the thing that's actually building the influencer life.
There you
and I
go.
think that's like often misinterpreted. Like, oh, I'm taking all the right pictures. I'm going. It's like influencing has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Because you're living your life by just doing stuff. Like you said, you're an experience junkie.
Right.
That's your main goal.
Yep.
And then you might be sharing stuff along the way, and that's what's pulling people in.
Yep.
As opposed to people just doing things to share, to be like, hey, look, I did the thing.
Right. Like,
yeah, I totally look at like, you know, social media, you know, if like all of us grew up in a time before that, right? So it's like, this is just obviously an incredibly weird, unique time in time in general for all of us, right? It's like, hey, all of a sudden there's this thing, the internet, now there's social media and all this. But if you think about it like psychologically, you know, the internet's kind of a layer 2 solution for layer 1 that's called life. You know, like physical life. So, you know, internet life requires physical life, but our egos, you know, our personality and all that stuff, that the ego can traverse, you know, both planes, but the physical, you know, actual self can't.
Right.
So then it's like this weird place where we're like just like out of balance on some small levels, or we're trying to get calibrated in what all of this really means, like as we move through time in a greater way, like just in the, you know, larger evolutionary cycle of like, hey, you know, it was like 50 years ago, the internet really wasn't doing anything. Now, what does that mean, you know, for the next 50 years since we have that? And so like, we're just seeing this insane.
Yeah,
like,
the where we're at
energy
right now,
connection.
and being able to scroll and actually like have this dopamine release because I'm seeing this cool shot of something that like, it's like crack, man. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I've never done crack, but but I'm just like, holy shit. And like, how does social media sometimes, like when I love TikTok, dude. If I get a free couple minutes, or, you know, I'll be like scrolling through. I'm like, oh my God, that's hilarious. Like I'm sharing this shit. And
yeah, man.
and it's so there's a really cool aspect. And but then you got like Matthew Rife, the comedian who now sells out, top paid comedian in I think in the U.S. And he built his business on little snippets of his comedy on TikTok.
Yep, like 30-second, 1-minute clips
Yeah.
of just crowd work.
Crowd
and
work.
and that's what he got. Yeah.
And so what was interesting about
Incredible.
when I was reading about him, you go to a show though, and he doesn't do crowd work. That's his marketing medium.
Right.
So then everybody comes there,
They're like, who is this guy? What
and
is this?
they think they're like, oh, he does crowd work the whole time. Well, no, he does comedy the whole time, and then he does a little bit of crowd work, and that's what he shares. But he doesn't want to share his comedy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, it's an interesting thing. But there's a great example of somebody that like used the platform to.
And he's doing both sides, physical, layer 1 and 2.
Yeah, layer
right?
1 and 2.
You know,
Damn. Wait, are you doing layer 1 and 2?
I'm trying to do what I can, you know.
I guess you are right now
guess
because
this
we're
is
on
the
the
I mean,
internet.
this is sort of the physical manifestation of and that's why ultimately
Yeah.
we wanted to stand this sort of medium up, is because we get to have conversations like this that then sort of transpire
Yeah,
into layer
yeah.
2, and then sort of become that second layer of content. But it's not. It's more about having this conversation
Yeah.
than what transpires afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely true. Yeah, and I think, you know, the thing that's nice about this specifically is like, you know, we didn't script all this, right? So it's like it's like we're in layer 2, but we're allowing for a level 1 expression in
Yeah.
layer 2 to actually be true and not rehearsed and marketed and all this crap about filtering how it needs
Right.
to be to like meet those algorithmic needs.
Yeah, you didn't even
We're just
tell
like,
me
here
what
we
we were
go.
talking about.
Yeah.
Like, you just like,
Because
come.
hey man, you know that you got plenty, and so do I.
Right,
so it's
right.
like we could probably
Yeah.
be here for hours if we wanted to just
Yep.
getting after it. But
What's layer 3?
that's called you're dead. I don't know. That must be the
I didn't know
spiritual
if it
realm.
was AI or something, you know, like.
Well, I think, you know, that could be probably like, you know, maybe cryptocurrency. It's like
Okay.
layer
Okay.
1, and then 2's the internet. The currency of the internet could be layer 3. Layer 4 could be VR. I don't know. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
So like I haven't got that far with it all yet, but I'm just trying to think of it in terms of like how an ego in how we exchange ideas and information. It was, always on a community level, but now like you can connect with anybody in the globe, right? That subscribes to the platform that you're actually interacting on.
Yep.
And so it's like, wow, man, like there's this incredible hyper connectivity. When you just zoom out and say, hey, here's 50 years, it's like, oh my God, like you would just see everything connect and be like, what are we looking at right here?
It's so powerful. Like in 2016, when we had the flood, the second flood, we had 2008 flood, which devastated our city. And then we had 2016 where we flooded, but mitigated a lot of it in this area, especially.
Everybody held their breath for 2 days, and it somehow held out.
But it did still flood.
Yeah.
It just, we had HESCO barriers and we did the whole thing. But
I remember that.
I realized real quick on that we needed, so there was people driving down into Nubo, and they're just like, I want to see what's going on in Nubo with the flood. And I was like, stop coming down here because we're trying to sandbag. We're trying to focus.
Yeah, I remember that.
Utilities are out. So I use social media to do updates. Like every few hours I would go
I remember
out.
watching those. That was awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like, because then you were like, hey, I don't got to go down there. I know what's going on. This guy's on the ground.
And I was getting more traction. Like I was getting more views than the news was getting.
Oh, yeah. At that
was,
point, you're like, the news is obsolete, man.
Right.
Like, what am I going to do? Go watch some rehearsed thing or watch this guy?
Right.
It's like, oh, I'm going to watch Steve. Obviously, he's doing this legitimately.
So that's one of and it was like, I was just like, okay, and I literally just said it, like, just so you don't have to come down here, I'm going to show you, I'm going to keep giving you updates. Here's where the water's at. Here's where the barriers are at. The water over there is over here. Tornadoes is underwater.
I remember that, man. That was powerful.
We're going to bring him, and I could use your help here. We're sandbagging on this day, whatever. But it really was great for, these catastrophic events that, you could start, communicating at a greater level.
It was awesome. I mean, I just still think about like how that kind of shaped my understanding. I remember that exact time I was thinking about how obsolete traditional media actually is, because it's like, anybody can go do what you did. Not everybody did it, obviously, and you'd want to get like you'd have to have the right kind of person to do that. But it's like, man, like somebody from the media is not going to like go into some of those areas because it might be hazardous, but you could take that risk.
Right.
You're like,
and
hey, I'm
it's
good
like,
with it.
don't overthink it. It's like, if I sat there, I was like, well, what's going to be my best, strategy to get the most followers? I didn't care. I wasn't trying to get followers. I was just trying to communicate.
That's real life.
So I think that's back to the whole influencer thing. It's like, do cool shit and you'll get followers. Don't try to get followers by faking cool shit.
Yeah, just be yourself, and if you're like, cool and people like it, you'll find out. And if you're not, well, you'll find that out too.
It turns out what people are drawn to is the authenticity of something, and not just pictures or media about something, right? Yeah. That's why the true rock stars are always cool, and the ones that are like, oh, we had a one-hit wonder. Yeah, maybe you replicated it, but you weren't really that sort of individual.
Yep. Amen.
It's like, what drives you? Why are you there to do it, and whatever, and everybody's got a reason, but it's like, if you can just be your version, then today's a great time for anybody, because you're the product, right? It's like, as a person, you can go out and exercise the things that are important to you, and hell, you might actually get paid if you snap a couple shots along the way. I've had a lot of people, like another good friend of ours, Brian Petter. He's telling me, he's like, you just need to be like, what are you doing? Like, why aren't you making content? And I'm just like, I don't know. I just, kind of got into that place where I'm like, was kind of comfortable being off the set in a way and out of the, scene in a sense, to just like have some psychological, like, barriers there. But now I'm like, okay, cool. It's like, I do all kinds of crazy stuff and have fun, but like, I'm like, all right, maybe I should be like leveraging into that a little further.
You probably should, if you're in a growth mode, yes, but I also believe in social media fasting. And like I've literally, you can go into your Facebook account and pause it to the point where nothing you've ever posted is even there. You can make yourself disappear without deleting your account. And I've done that a couple times. And like, you're just like, nope, you're nowhere. Like, I thought, wait, I can't even find him anymore.
Like, was that real? Was he even real?
Yeah.
Did I imagine that guy?
So it's kind of cool that they let you do that, because I was worried about deleting my account, but I really wanted to pause, and I didn't want, and I just And so,
yeah, no, it's
yeah,
good.
man, social media fasting. We got to do that once in a while.
I think it's a good point on just, electronic stuff in general. I think
That's true.
if you think about it too, we were all adapted, not necessarily for screens, internet, all this stuff, like just in our own biological humanity of evolution, right? It's like, and we're social creatures, which is why we have a social network reflecting back to us, what we are on that level of it. But it's like, hey, give your body, your brain, a chance to like settle, kind of like the guy in Nepal was telling you. It's like, let the smoke out for a minute. And like, who are you after all that clears? Like, you don't really even realize like how many thoughts are just like pinging you in a day that have to do with that. And it's like, who are you when that's gone for like a week? It's like, just to switch it up.
And not to mention, those thoughts are all addiction-driven thoughts that are trying to get back to that dopamine. So to your point, it's even less like you, because that's just the addiction you coming to the surface. Yeah. And once you are able to separate those addiction thoughts, it's like, who the hell is Casey really? What have I thought without pining for that dopamine hit? It's hard. It's hard to know who that used to be. Because you could be doing that
shit for years. Yeah. Right? And
but,
then you're like, oh, God, social media is a part of me. I'm integrated in that.
I got to say, so I've done like psychedelic mushrooms a couple times.
Yeah.
And I got to this like very human level where I was able to shed those layers of ego and
there's
just
a lot of
get
like
to the
stuff
root
coming
of
out about those
myself.
things.
And I was like, oh man, that's like, it's awesome to really understand who you are and so because there's so many layers of our psyche and especially that I'm personally buried in, and then but to have all that, I literally like one time had this visualization. It was just like shed that layer and I shed that layer and I shed that layer. I'm like, this the real Steve.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, it's like a house of mirrors in a way.
Right.
And you're like, okay, this is the real Steve.
Yeah.
It's not the reflection over there.
So the question is, what was the conversation when you found the real Steve?
Yeah,
dude. Then it was a lot of pressure on me. I'm just like, oh fuck, this is the real me. Can I exist in life with this level of vulnerability and not this shadow or barrier or buffer around me of all this other shit? And so
like fear because of like social norms and whatever it might be to
like
be not authentic.
Being judged.
Here's my biggest hack to life is that I act busy even if I'm not, because I may not want to stop and talk. And so like if I'm walking through so I'm just like, and that was one of them where I'm just like, dude, act less busy. That was one layer where I was like, oh, that's how you get through life without, but it's really just protecting myself. Like I'm just dodging, I'm dodging people.
Elon Musk talks about the same thing, how he's like, hey man, like it's rude for people to assume that, that you are able to just, fit their needs of communicating at any given moment. It's like, cause if you are like on a mission, it's like, cause even when you're not on a mission, a guy like you're on a mission. Like it's like kind of like the Earth, right? It's like the moon goes around this, but then we're going around a bigger cycle. So what mission are you aligned with at that moment, right? There's different orbits of missions.
Yeah. And if you catch me at a music festival, I'm not on. I mean, I'm on the mission of just having a good time or whatever. But I'm not gonna just walk real fast to get somewhere so I can be as efficient as possible. But on a day to day, it's just like I'm in and out.
A lot of people
man.
know you, man. It's like, so you're out there on the streets. People are gonna be like, yo, I can't imagine like for you, like people are probably always trying to stop you, and you're just like, you'd never get. None of those companies would probably have made it. Right. You know what I mean?
It's so true.
It's like you just be conversating indefinitely.
It's like if I'm putting my family second, I'm putting my friends third, and I'm putting people I don't know that think they know me fourth.
That's right.
But I appreciate the interest and the love but it's also just like that's it's great that we're talking about it, because that's like something to understand about people that are, I mean, like more popular, I guess, or
renowned or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like I got shit to do. Like there's only so many hours in a day.
Back to the authenticity beat. The reason that I am is because I'm doing shit. It's not because I'm stopping and talking to people. I got the other chapter in my book. Cut out the small talk, man.
You were
sorry.
You were an influencer before being an influencer was a thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, so it's like, hey, layer one influencer.
Yeah.
Now you've combined layer
In
one
real
and two.
life, man.
You know, and I
Yes.
think there's something actually really powerful about that. As I think is, and yeah, we got about 7-ish minutes
Yep.
left. But it's really be more concerned with yourself and less concerned with others, because the more that you look inward and focus on achieving your mission, the more successful you're going to be. Like, forget
right.
about what Steve's doing.
Dude.
Forget about what Rob's doing. Worry about what Casey's doing and handling my business in a day.
Dude, people.
agreed.
So many. When Andrea and I started making soap and lip balm, people were like, "What? What the fuck are they doing?"
And
like,
this
what
was
are they-
way back in the day,
yeah,
right?
like 1997. Like,
Okay.
what are
Yeah,
they
yeah.
doing? And why are they? And they're making soap in their kitchen, and like people in our
Is Fight Club breaking out?
Right.
No, but-
Yeah.
and our families were moderately concerned because they're just like, and this is what I realized, is that we are constantly, our friends and family are sometimes
Our worst enemies.
totally, and they're going to be like, it's
they don't-
because they care about you so
Yeah.
much, they don't want to see you get
it's
hurt.
wrapped in benevolence. Like,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, and their perspective isn't yours, so it's theirs, and so
Right.
they're coming from their perspective, but trying to lay that over your
Yeah.
perspective, and so you got to say, that's not how I feel, or
Yeah.
that becomes your perspective, and then you have some toxic shame cycle about
Yeah.
why you're actually not you. You know,
My dad said to me one time, and I love him. He's gone now. He didn't raise me, but we became friends. And he said to me, during the early days of us making soap and lip balm, he's like, "Steven, when are you going to stop doing what you want to do and start doing what you have to do? Stop doing what you want to do and start doing what you have to do."
it sounds like myself.
Yeah.
On a
How many
daily
times have you?
basis.
How many times have people heard that? Yeah.
Right. I'm like, never, man. Never. I'm never going to
Yeah.
stop doing what I want to do and start doing what I have. I am doing what I have to do, and that's what I want to do.
That's right.
Yeah, Dad.
Yeah, take him down. Well, and I think also, like, you know, to you know, you're how old are you, Steve? If you don't mind.
51.
Okay, so I'm 41. I'm 10 years younger
Right
than you
on.
are, right? We got a 10-year gap. But you look great for, you know, what I would say an average 51-year-old guy looks like. And I think that, you know, age is just a BS thing anyway.
Yep.
But ultimately, like, look, man, you're doing what you want, right? It's like, imagine if all of a sudden in your head, those thoughts about how you weren't supposed to be doing this thing and it wasn't going to work out, what if you started to bite down on those? And then all of a sudden, since you had those, another group of thoughts, which wasn't what you really felt, began to grow inside of you over the years. And then pretty soon you wake up and you're giving all of the energy to those thoughts that aren't accurate. And so do you think that that's a harmonious existence? No. And do you think that a more harmonious existence of doing what you feel is right, even if you get banged up a bit, do you think that that's going to bring greater vitality and overall probably health to that person because they're in rhythm, in line with the truth of who and what they are? And it's like, I would beg to say that, hey man, if you're doing what you do and it's who you are,
Yeah.
you're probably you're not going to age as hard. And that's, you know,
Yep.
I can't prove that, but I can just say, I think that I feel personally, man, if I was hating what I was doing every day for a while, like I would, you know, I think I'd probably have cancer and be off the books, you know, because it's like you're just
The other
so
thing,
out.
that was brilliant. I love it. The other thing is, like, I am solely fucking responsible for who I am right now, today.
Right.
I'm not. I cannot blame this life on anybody else.
That's right.
So as miserable as I am some days when I've been sued twice in the last year. Hadn't been sued my whole life, but like.
It means you've been too successful.
Right. But no, and it's just
Kinda.
like, but like I'm responsible, man. This is my fault if I'm having a bad day.
That's right.
And I'm the only one that can change it as well.
Non-victim mentality,
absolutely.
right? It's like,
Yeah, I
and I think like the whole victim thing, it's like, you know, we all should give ourselves a moment to allow ourselves to feel like a victim, because sometimes we are victims, but if we allow that to like drag out in our mind, it literally, we're feeding the thought that is robbing us of our life.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, do you want to give this plant more food that's just, looking at me, telling me all these things. And on the other side, the sun's there. It's like, but no, I'm just going to feed this thing that's blocking my view instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
This is
strange deal.
the biggest thing about like failed businesses. And I've had some fail and I've had some, but they're the ones that have failed, they were my fault. When I have a down year, this is my fault. I'm not like, oh man, I mean, okay, COVID, fuck COVID, right? Like that, I will blame,
Definitely.
I'll blame our downturn on
I can feel
COVID
that.
because that's a global pandemic. But there's no other situation that ever happened where I was like, I didn't allow this to happen. Like I allowed this to happen.
Which is, it's fine because like, if you look at it that way, it's like, do you think that, the light bulb was created on attempt 1?
Right.
I mean, so you just have to expect, this isn't about expectations of I have to get it correct on 1. It's the lessons.
Mm-hmm.
It's the perseverance. It's the, it better be worth it if you're feeling like inclined to do it. And if it isn't, hey man, that's cool too. You learned that. So just
I think
keep it rolling.
The golden nugget too, to always being the key to all your problems is now you're the key to all your solutions. I created this problem. Now
that.
I have the power. If I'm the one that created it, well, certainly I can fix it.
better
But if
copyright
you
that.
created my problems,
Yeah, you can't fix it. That's a great point. Dude, when E.F. Hutton talks, man, people
Absolutely.
listen.
Hey, so just to give you a heads up, it's 5:29.
Okay.
All right, so I think we're gonna wrap it up. I think we could keep talking for a while.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have you
You
back
have
if
me
you're
back.
interested.
Sure. We'll see if anybody listens to this or if that even matters. Or let's just,
Hey,
no, we don't
it
even
doesn't.
care.
yeah, that's right.
This
We're
is
making-
three guys hanging out, and we just happen to be live. So, all right.
Oh, hey,
yeah,
quick product.
Yeah, if
I
you wanna
brought
throw
I
it,
brought you
come
some
on.
samples of
Awesome.
new products real quick. And see here. Look
Hey
at-
man,
I'm
it's your
putting-
timeline. So
No.
hey, we'll hang out if you're good. So.
So at Ecolips, we're getting out of lip and into other stuff. We just launched a Reef Safe Zinc SPF 30
Awesome, man.
lotion.
Very
So
cool.
y'all
What
get-
makes it reef safe?
I like it.
Instead of using ingredients like oxybenzone that have been shown to hurt the reefs and stuff, it's a zinc and titanium dioxide are the safest mineral SPF ingredients.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because zinc is something that we need actually for our immune system,
Right.
Intrinsically,
Yep. We got a daily facial oil, so you can keep that 41-year-old skin looking
All right,
sharp.
baby,
So you
let's
put this
keep it
on,
going.
right,
Rob
right?
doesn't need that. I need that.
We got a new lip mask, and this is like a balm that stays on a lot longer. And I'm not totally
Continued innovation. I love it.
So that's the thing too. It's like, okay, we've been around 20 years. We have our 20th anniversary at Ecolips, and it's
Congrats.
like, man, we're doing it. And so Bug Soother, most popular bug repellent in the Midwest.
Yeah, everybody I know has a bottle of that at the
Right.
campfire. Like I don't. Yeah, it's like a household thing now.
Yeah,
Standardized.
and so the number one complaint we've heard over the years and I've had is that it's just maybe not strong enough for real backwoods stuff. So we came out with Bug Soother Max.
Nice.
And this is 6 hours on mosquitoes and 2 hours on ticks. It smells a little bit different, but still great scent.
Does regular bug
that's
soother
all right.
prevent ticks
No.
also? Oh,
Nope.
so I didn't know that.
Yep. So anyway, and then the sustainability aspect. This is called the Plant Pod. Our lip balms now come in these plastic-free containers that like literally feels like plastic, looks like plastic, functions like a regular chapstick tube, but it's made from plant pulp.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hey,
so,
I would love to talk to you about the byproduct so we can 3D print some hemp houses.
Ooh, okay.
Anyways, that's another episode.
So here's So thank you
Thank
for
you, man.
having me.
Hey, it's good to
on
meet
this.
you, man.
Dude,
It's been a long
thank you.
time
Good to meet
coming.
you.
I mean, not for you, but I've been hearing your name for years.
Right.
So very cool to meet
I'll
you.
tell
It's a
Chris
rite of
we
passage.
hung out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks everybody
Thanks.
for tuning in, and Steve, thank you so much, and Casey,
Cheers.
again, thank you.